In this video, we're going to model this pilaster here and a freestanding column. Now, as it stands, we have planar surfaces with textures mapped to them. And this model would be much more realistic if we actually created geometry to represent this pilaster. Let's go into the image 1 scene to match up the geometry with the original photo, and then use the rectangle tool and draw a rectangle along the floor starting on this edge and making a rectangle approximately the size of the pilaster. And don't worry if you don't get it right the first time. It's natural to have it be the wrong size at first, and then we'll go in and refine it in a moment. Next, use the push-pull tool, which is right here, and pull this up and snap at the top edge of the wall. Then we can use the push-pull tool on the other surfaces to adjust them interactively like this. And I can just eyeball the edge there until it lines up with the pilaster. Now I want to pull it back and make it narrower, so I'm going to orbit around and click on this face and start moving it. But then I'm going to click on image 1 again to go back into that while I'm still using the push-pull tool. Then I can click again to place that column down at that point. Now I think this column looks great, but now I think if we added some baseboard trim around the bottom, it would be that much more realistic. And that's easily done. We just need to come in here and use the line tool and draw a line right about here in the red direction. Now I want to be sure that it goes in the red direction. So as soon as the cursor goes along that edge, I'll hold the shift key down and the edge gets bolder to indicate that that direction is now locked. I can then click anywhere along this intersect line and the line will precisely terminate on that edge. Then I'll press P to activate the push-pull tool, and I will pull this face out to represent the baseboard. Let's pull it out 1/2 inch, so type in 0.5 enter to indicate that. And then press L for line and draw a line in the green direction. Hold down Shift to lock the inference and click on the other side of the pilaster. And then press P and pull this surface out 1/2 inch, type in 0.5 enter. And then I know that there would be a baseboard on the other side, even though it's not in the photo. I'm going to model that by drawing in a line and then pulling out this surface 1/2 inch. Let's go back to image 1, and it looks great. But the next step would be to project the textures from the photo onto those new surfaces. Now I don't need to do it onto the wall, it's already there. What I need to do is select those new surfaces. So I will strategically orbit the model so that I can see this more like in an elevation view. And then I will make a window around all of that new geometry, simply to select it. Then I'll go back to the image 1 scene and click Project Textures from Photo. Overwrite existing materials, yes. In this case, I do not want to trim the partially visible faces because I've explicitly modeled the pilaster just how it really is. So I'll say no here. And then I'll orbit again, and you can see that that looks great. However, we're going to get some weird texture on the side where it's obscured from the photo. So what I need to do next is fill that in with a new texture. I'll use the paint bucket tool, and then I will sample using the eyedropper. I will click on this pilaster somewhere in the middle to sample an average color there at that location. Then I will click on this face to apply that single color to that face. We're getting kind of a variation of color across these surfaces because of the variation in lighting that we're getting from that photograph. And that looks better, I think, than if we were to just paint that with a flat color. But in this situation, we have a surface that's totally obscured in the photograph. We need to apply our own textures to surfaces like that. Now, the next thing that we're going to do is create a column that is identical to this pilaster. Again, I'll orbit into the elevation view and then make a window around all of that new geometry. Then I'll orbit this way, and I will use the Move tool in copy mode. So the way that that works is you start moving by clicking a point, and then you press and release the Option or Alt key to go into copy mode. Now I'm copying. I'll go into the Image 1 scene, roll the mouse wheel back to zoom out, and I want to establish this in the red direction, so I'll start moving in the red direction and hold the Shift key down to lock that inference, and I'll just move this over until it lines up with the photo. Right about there. I'll click a point to locate that freestanding column. So now you can see the situation in 3D. If you orbit around though, you'll see that the column is open here because of the way that we copied it from the pilaster. So I need to fix that next by coming in here and drawing a rectangle and closing off that object. And then I'll press P and pull this out, 1/2 inch. I'll type 0.5, enter. And now we need to have some textures on these surfaces, which we can't see in the photo. So again, I'll press B or click on the paint bucket to activate that tool. Then I'll click on this material and assign it to this surface. I will then use the eyedropper tool and sample a color here from the baseboard trim, and then click on this surface and this surface, and while I'm at it, also this surface. So now we have textures all around. And we've made the 3D model just that much more realistic by paying attention to some of the details in the space.